Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, one and all, to my show and my channel, Mark Ellis, and I'm live right here, right now. And for about the next hour, we're going to be talking all things to honor the life, the legacy, and the music of the one, the only, the mightiest of them all, King Edward Van Halen. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this. And again, I thank everybody for watching the initial tribute that I did on this channel on Tuesday when the news broke. And it was just kind of a spur of the moment thing then, as you saw. And that was really for me. That was for Mark. That wasn't necessarily for you, although it was a public vid. That was just for me, just getting all my initial thoughts out and just really having a vent session. So I appreciate everybody bearing with me and allowing me to be a therapist as I get off this picture, still learning the ins and outs of this. Hi, everybody. That was a picture of me when I was backstage at Jimmy Kimmel Live when Van Halen was about to kick off their last tour. They played a residency at Jimmy Kimmel. They taped it all in one night. They played 8 songs, and then they ran 2 songs each for the run of Jimmy Kimmel that week. And I was that close, man. I was that close. And I got a couple other pictures that I found digging through Facebook. Yes, I had to go back to Facebook, which I don't often venture into, but for the occasion, I felt it was appropriate. So tonight, because I was just getting it all out for me initially during the Volume 1 tribute, I wanted this to be for every one of us, for all of us to share memories, experiences, and just kick back, crack open a beer, and talk about Van Halen for a little bit. I mean, there's never a bad occasion to do that. So cheers to every one of you. And remember, as my mom says, if you have a beverage and you're about to toast someone, you got to look them right in the eye or else it's 7 years of bad sex. So don't disappoint your partner. Don't disappoint my mom, most of all. So cheers to you and cheers to the king. Do have a special guest that's set to join me in just a little bit here. Dean Delray is going to be around, but before we bring Dean in, just wanted to get to know everybody and see who's hanging out in the chat room. I know there's one person I know is going to be here. Anytime I do a vid, I know that I can at least bank on one Edward Harrell being here. Haskell 420. Not only does he help regulate the the scum and villainy that pops up on YouTube chats from time to time, but he's also a monster Van Halen fan. So Ed, good to see you as always. And I'm just looking at all of these people that are joining, and David Taylor said he paused the Largo 1982 show of Van Halen to come watch this. So I'm not sure you made the right decision, Dave, but I appreciate you spending some time with me. Initially, I really just wanted to do this just as an excuse to talk Van Halen, which you know that I'm never short on words for that band and Eddie, but it's also just everybody's processing this news. And while it may not have come to a shock to a lot of people, it still is a gut punch. And it's nothing you can ever fully brace for. Losing somebody like Eddie in all of our lives. I got so many texts that day into the next day and tweets and DMs and stuff like that, just checking in on me. Like I lost a member of my family, and we weren't related by blood as far as I know, but I think he was part of everybody's family. He was a part of the soundtrack to our lives. And that's one of the reasons why one volume of tribute isn't enough. And even tonight, it's not going to be that satisfying feeling of we're done with this show and then, okay, we can all move on, because I don't ever want to move on. I don't ever want to get to a phase of my life where I can't crank Van Halen and it puts a smile on my face. And that's the thing that has really struck me this week as I turn on the radio and I hear all these tributes to Eddie and everybody talking about how great he was and is. And it's that music that I always put on when I am feeling a number of emotions, but I can rely on it when I'm sad, when I'm down, if I have lost somebody close to me, if a family member or a friend has passed, or I'm just feeling down about whatever going on in my career, my life. And I can always put on Van Halen and rely on it to make me happy, to put me in a better mood, a better disposition, and just rock out for a little bit. And the ultimate test of that music and its power and the magic it possesses is given news like this, when the man who made all those great tunes is gone. And we put it on, we say, okay, how's it going to go? And I have good news for you. You turn that stereo up to 11 and it still sounds as fresh, as crisp, as youthful, as energetic, as alive as it ever has. And it did manage to put a smile on my face. Some tears streaming for sure, but it also made me happy. And that's what I really break Van Halen down into, because when I look back on what initially got me into Van Halen, I'm not a musician by any stretch of the imagination. Don't let the Instagram vids that I post every Christmas when I'm banging on the pots and pan drum set in my sister's basement fool you. I am not a professional drummer. And I have never been anywhere close to a musician of any caliber. I'm the only one in my family who can say that, because everybody else in my family, very talented, hardworking musicians. And so it wasn't the precision, the technicality, the experimentation that first drew me to Van Halen. It was just simply the sound of it was this effervescent, joyous, harmonious. It was very bright sounding. It sounded like a light in the universe. And that's as well as I could possibly articulate it. And so I wore out that tape of 1984, and I didn't get very deep in the tape. When I initially had on my Walkman, walking around sixth grade and discovering this band, it was already 92 or 93 by that point, and I was just starting to really get into Van Halen. And I was just playing the 1984 keyboard tune that goes right into Jump. And then I was hitting stop, rewind, and right back into it. That's how I wore the tape out. I had a babysitter named Mona, who was a college student at William & Mary at the time. I grew up in Williamsburg, Virginia. And she's the one that told me, well, wait, you just keep rewinding it after Jump? She's like, oh, you got to listen to Panama. It's like Jump with more guitars. And I was like, Jump with more guitars? I'm intrigued. And then Panama made it into the rotation. And then after that, I think you know the rest. And then I'm getting into Hot for Teacher and Drop Dead Legs and Girl Gone Bad and on and on and on until we get to House of Pain. And then we rewind the whole damn tape. Well, actually, it was a cassette. So that was side 2 of the cassette. So then you just flip it back over to side 1 and you have 1984 right back into Jump. That is the album. I've never owned a record player in my life, but I own a number of Van Halen vinyl records. Just why the fuck not? It's VH, and I like to support any way that I can. And from there, it became this thing that was always in my life, and I never really appreciated it as this is my favorite band and this is my favorite musical artist ever until I got to college. So it was really that album and the FUCK album, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, from 91, that were in my cultural zeitgeist as a kid, because that album, the Fuck album, had Top of the World and it had Right Now. And those are still two. You're probably going to hear both those songs during the Lakers game tonight, because they always play Right Now. I don't know that there's been a sport contest that has occurred on Earth in the last 30 years that has not had Right Now played at it at some point. And if you're crowning a champion, which might happen with the Lakers wearing their Black Mamba, I almost said costumes. They're Black Mamba costumes. They're Black Mamba uniforms tonight. If they win the championship, you're going to hear 2 songs. You're going to hear We Are the Champions, and you're going to hear Top of the World. And those are just those sport arena anthems. And when you talk about anthems, you go all the way back to the original 1978 Van Halen 1 record with that reverse car horn intro into Running with the Devil. I'll never forget this. We were at the Carolina Hurricanes game. It was me and a bunch of my buddies. And by this point, it was acknowledged and probably insufferable so to my friends that Van Halen was the most kick-ass band on the planet. And we get to the Carolina Hurricanes playoff game. They're playing against the Devils. And for whatever reason, hockey games are great for playing just kick-ass rock and roll throughout the contest. Football games are good. Basketball's okay. But you go to a hockey game to drink ice cold beer and listen to rowdy rock and roll. If a hockey game breaks up, great. And so they just kept, it was just Van Halen tune, Scorpions tune. They come out to rock you like a hurricane. And then my buddy's like, well, dude, you got to go to a Devils game. I'm like, why do I got to go to a Devils home game? Well, because their intro song is Running with the Devil. It's just the greatest thing. All the lights go down, 20,000 people screaming. Van Halen isn't within 3,000 miles of the arena. That doesn't matter. There's a team called the Devils about to skate onto the ice, and there's that car horn, and there's that guitar, that little link that Eddie does just right at the top. See, I know how to air guitar. I know how a guitar works just from watching Eddie Van Halen play so much. And I think I break it down like this, is that the thing about Van Halen that separates themselves from any other band in the history of time, to me, is just the amount of pure joy and exuberance. Not just that I feel when I hear it, but it's also what you see on stage when they were playing live. Because a live Van Halen show, especially back in the day when I was just in diapers, was the hottest ticket in your town. This is before you had YouTube or before people were going to be posting Instagram vids from their time of the concert. TikTok was not a thing yet, okay? And you just had to be there or you were going to miss it. And so the entire town just goes dark. It's like there's a Friday night football game in some small Texas town where the barbershop's closed. Sorry, no milkshakes, no burgers until after the game. Everybody is going to see the mighty Van Halen for themselves with their own naked, steaming eyeballs. So as I welcome everybody here and say, look at all the people here tonight, I do want to dive into the comments, which I didn't get a chance to do as much as I would have liked to when we initially did the tribute on Tuesday. So here is the very first comment that I wanted to get is make sure from Haskell 420. So everybody out there, give Haskell a big round of applause. Van Halen legit brings a smile to my face, perfection any time of the year, but summer. Oh, baby, hearing Eddie's guitar, it hits your soul a different kind of way. You really do. You really do. And Camshaft, Van Halen is anthemic. It's just so many great anthems that you get. And Eddie Van Halen, after years of listening to Mom's Disco and Motown, Van Halen's debut was the first music that immediately became a part of me. Yeah, I remember being in high school and picking up the first, because a lot of the songs were on that initial Gene Simmons produced demo. But I bought Van Halen 1 on CD, and it was like, oh, cool, CD. Mom got a new car with a CD player in it, and I was just starting to drive by then. So I bought it at Echoes in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I immediately put it in and just kept driving around the William & Mary campus in my mom's Chrysler by myself, some 16-year-old kid, blasting the first 3 tunes off that album, blasting Running with the Devil, and then Eruption, and then You Really Got Me. Just crank all the windows down, just, hey, girls, trying to attract the college chicks with music from 15 years ago, 20 years ago by that point. It did not work, but I'm sure it turned some heads for better or for worse. So checking in with everybody here. And we just say, please, Wiley Henry says, please tell the Michael Jackson Beat It story. We should definitely get into that, Wiley. Thank you for the reminder. I will tell the Michael Jackson Beat It story. And then Cam Halen, let's see how Cam Halen got their name. Coworkers at the guitar shop used to at work called me Cam Halen because I was always either listening to or playing his tunes at the shop. Some of the best times. And that's the thing. Well, okay, I have news for you, Iron Fan, who wants to take Sheridan's friendship card from him and give it to me. Brett did text me, and I got a very sweet DM and been communicating with Brett Sheridan's mom, Julie. So, and she was very nice because apparently Julie Sheridan, Brett Sheridan's mom, took him to his first concert was Van Halen, and she told me she was nervous because Brett wanted to go with his friends to the front rows. Back then, it was just throw elbows and get to the front of the pit. And she let him go. I'm not sure if it's I think it was the 5150 tour, or might have been OU812 with Sammy. And Brett survived. So that's good news. I was thinking about it today. I was talking with a good friend of mine, comedian Steve Simone, who is a huge Van Halen fan. Him and I were at the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. And we've seen Van Halen probably 5 or 6 times together. And it just reminds me, especially the 5150 album, the first one with Sammy Hagar, reminds me of my early days hanging around the Comedy Store when you're trying to get your foot in the door there. And then I did get hired to work alongside people like Steve Simone and Rick Ingram. And we were all just fighting for stage time, but a lot of that is spent just shooting the shit in the back. And more often than not, with us, we'd stumble into some sort of random conversation about Van Halen. So when I hear songs like Summer Nights, when I hear Best of Both Worlds, when I hear Dreams, I think about those early days of just thinking, okay, I moved out to California. I moved out here to Sunset Strip to chase my dream of being a stand-up comic that can pay his rent telling dick jokes. And at that point, you're just not sure if it's going to work out. You got some game, but you're just not sure how far this game is going to take you. And those songs always remind me to just, keep your nose to the grindstone and keep working and keep playing and hang in there. And it's not always going to be pretty, but you're going to get through it. And you're going to succeed if you believe in yourself. And if you get a little bit of luck going your way, all the better for it. And that's what all of Van Halen's music has always meant to me. Let's see, Chris Topher checks in. Eddie rewrote part of Beat It while Michael Jackson was out of the studio. I don't know how much of the legend or or the myth of the Beat It recording session has kind of muddled what actually happened. But here's what I do know is that Eddie got a call from Quincy Jones, who was Michael Jackson's producer, when Mike was working on the Thriller album, which ironically, the Thriller album was the reason that album never made it all the way to number one. Van Halen 1984 was on the charts at number 2 for 3 weeks. And even though Jump the Single made it to number 1, that album was stuck at number 2 because there was this little album called Thriller that had the track Beat It on it, which Eddie Van Halen played the solo for. So he gets a call from Quincy Jones and hangs up because he thinks his buddies are messing with him. Quincy calls back, says, no, it's really Quincy Jones coming down to the studio. Eddie gets down to the studio, and I think it was 2 takes at the most. He just walked in with his guitar, plugs into the rig that was there, and just shreds that solo. 20 minutes later, unplugs, and is too shy to ask for payment or, hey, how are we going to work this out? And it was just, hey, nice to meet you. And then I think he later said, hey, just if Mike can teach me some dance moves, you can show me how to moonwalk, then we'll call it even. Now, on that tour, Michael Jackson went on to do the Victory Tour in 1984. And when they were in Dallas, Eddie Van Halen happened to be in the area, and Eddie came on stage and played the solo live with Michael Jackson. So there is footage of that going around somewhere. And that's one of the things that I'm sure I'm going to be doing later on tonight alongside a lot of y'all, is that I love watching the old random YouTube clips. And on my Twitter on Tuesday, I posted just a little rabbit hole for y'all to walk down. And one of the ones that I posted was the song 5150, because obviously it's on the 5150 album. And it's that version that is on the Live Without a Net. That was the first live filmed concert that Van Halen did start to finish. There's a ton of Dave era things that you can go look at on YouTube, like the Largo show that David Taylor is watching. There's a great Montreal one from the 1984 tour. There is the legendary Oakland 1981 that has Unchained, So This Is Love, those kind of songs on there. But the first film start to finish and released for public consumption was Live Without a Net. Their first tour with Sammy Hagar in New Haven, Connecticut. And when you watch them play the song 5150, it's just a band that is just so in the groove. 4 dudes from different backgrounds, all coming together as one. I guess Eddie and Alex are from the same background, but you get where I'm going. They became one unit that was just an engine of fun and happiness and kick-ass rock and roll. And it's never been more apparent than watching that particular song, because Eddie's got a new musical soulmate with Sammy Hagar. Mikey's having the time of his life. Alex is a beast on the drums, and they just go, man. They just go, and it is a thrill to watch. So I'm probably going to watch Live Without a Net. I might go start to finish on it. And it's just because I want to celebrate. But I will give you all some other vids to check out at the end of this video. We'll probably go for about an hour here tonight. And let's hear from y'all. Let's hear your favorite songs, your favorite deep cuts, your favorite albums. Give me some good stuff to talk to. We got a great one here. DOA, Dead or Alive, and Dirty Movies. Those are a couple great deep cuts. Michael Moore wore out his 5150 album playing it so much. That was your first tape. Yeah, I wore out the 1984. And Justin McDonald's right. 5150, such an underrated song. And when you heard Hot for Teacher in Panama and Diamond Dave, you were hooked. Yeah, that'll pretty much do it for you. This tour video 5150 studio just surfaced. There's so much stuff that's unheard. There's a great vid that you can see that is them fucking around with Dreams. And it's a little more guitar heavy, but it's just in the studio 5150. And it's hilarious because you watch it, and at the beginning of the take, they're messing around. And I think either Sammy or Eddie takes a sip of a Heineken and then puts it on the amp. And then halfway through the song, the other person comes over and takes a sip of the Heineken. So it's just the community Heineken down there. But they were playing Dreams, and it's where Eddie is actually playing along to his own keyboard intro on guitar. And it's just it's a really cool alternate version. Speaking of alternate versions, they were playing on KLOS, the rock station out here in LA, the demo version of Running with the Devil. And it's never been officially released anywhere, but it's great. It's a little more raw. It's a little more dirty. It's not the polished gem that any record exec would want on the intro album to meet this band. But you hear Dave, talking to the producer, a little higher in the headphones here. And Eddie's guitar is just straight down raunchy, and it's fun. It's a really fun alternate version of a classic song. So DC Bowling wants to celebrate Everybody Wants Some, and why would you not? Everybody Wants Some is, it's just, that guitar solo is just, it's so blinding and blistering and just pile driving good. It's just such a great song. And the way that they would play that in concert is, yeah, Dave always forgot the words, is just hearing Al's drum, because more often than not, Al would do a drum solo and then that would go into something like Everybody Wants Some. And it's just fun. I mean, the only thing I wish I could do on this show that I can't because of legal reasons, just play the songs for you. You know, nobody really needs to hear this dipshit talk about Van Halen for an hour. You'd much rather listen to the music, as would I. But this is where we are in the world, and I don't want to get sued. I don't want this video to get taken down. I just want you all to enjoy what we're doing here. Camshaft says 5150 was on cassette for her too. My strongest memory, 16 heading to Malibu, and you always think about it now. Yeah, Eddie has the composition, and he sounds like a classical violinist. And at that time, like when you go back to what Van Halen was walking into when they had their debut album, was you had a lot of singer-songwriter stuff. You had like Fleetwood Macs of the world. Then you also had tunes from bands like Boston and Styx, which are really good songs, but very heavily produced and melodic, but it just wasn't that raw sound. Then you had punk rock in a different corner, and you had disco taking over, and you had R&B making a big play, and you had all these different influences that all just kind of melded into what you heard when you put on a Van Halen record. And so for them to come and just unite all those worlds, it was like the music world was being drawn and quartered in a bunch of different directions, and Van Halen lands, because as Dave would say, they're all from different neighborhoods. You just get in there and holy shit, there's this one band that just offers all of it. And when you listen to Van Halen 1 and Van Halen 2 in tandem, that's what they gave you, a little bit of everything. Everybody Wants Some, and Van Halen gave you all of it. And somebody who I'm thrilled to welcome to the show now is a guy who I don't even know the extent of his history in the world of rock and roll, because before he became one of the best comics working today, he's been in rock since I don't know this. He might be a vampire. He might be timeless. He might have met Robert Johnson at the Crossroads. He goes back a while with his roots in rock and roll and his love for Van Halen. You've probably seen him do stand-up around town on TV. And if you're not already a listener, you have to check out his podcast, Let There Be Talk. He is the one, the only, my buddy, Mr. Dean Delray. Dino, how in the hell are you, my man?
I feel like Shia on the table read for Fast Times. I'm in my car, you know. Hey.
That's all I would want from you, dude. I just want you to be the Spicoli here for the time that you can share with us. I know you're doing an outdoor stand-up show later on tonight, which I'm insanely excited for you to do. Dina, if I can ask you before we get into Van Halen specific, is there an easy way for you to give everybody the breakdown of what your journey in rock and roll has been? Where did it start? Where did it take you? I've seen old pictures of you with Axl Rose and with Kirk Hammett, like back in, it looks like the 80s. Where did it all start for you?
Well, I'm 54, so it started, my first band was junior high. Stupid band name called Purple Haze, because we just didn't, band names were impossible. And we played the lunchtime courtyard, one song. That band quickly broke up, and then over the years started a few different bands, then got a record deal, put out records, and there's one on iTunes right now. But I played music, and my podcast followers laugh at this, because whenever I have a guest on, I go, I played music for 25 years and now I do comedy. And they're like, oh, here he goes with the 25 years. But you got to explain it to people. I don't fucking want to say the same shit every day, but you got to set it up a little bit. But that's it. I played music 25 years and then tapped out after the illegal downloading. And basically I had done it all. I wasn't famous, but I was a working musician, making records, touring, opening for huge bands, and then started comedy. And now I've been doing comedy 10 years, and it's been better than anything I ever did in music.
Well, I think you found your calling because again, I didn't know you back when you were playing rock venues. I met you at the Comedy Store, and I think one of the first things that sealed our friendship bond was us talking about Van Halen. And I remember you bringing me the CD that you had burned for me of them the first night of their first headlining tour at Selland Arena. I think it was up near Fresno or something. And
That's
and
right.
you and what I am eternally in your debt for is you hear Dave getting his stage rap together that would become Diamond David Lee Roth. But when he talks about, hey, we got this new record coming out tomorrow, here's a brand new one off it. If you want to help us dance the night away, it's like premiering Dance the Night Away and just listening to it. It just sounds so youthful and just so you just feel the excitement in his voice. And it's such a great time capsule of where the band was back then.
It's interesting. I look at, which by the way, I talked about this many, many times. I came to the Comedy Store in 10 years ago, coming up on 11 now. I believe it was December 6th, 2009. Stumbled onto the patio, didn't know anyone, no idea how to do comedy, but I'd hung out there in the 80s. I knew that if I wanted to do comedy, I wanted to go to the Comedy Store. It was painted black like the whiskey used to be. It was rock and roll. They played rock on the patio, and I didn't know anybody, but quickly, over a matter of a year or so, I made all my friends there strictly through music and being you, Bill Burr, Marin, those kind of guys that related to some great music. Because of course, there was younger guys there, and they were probably into hip hop or video games or whatever. But the bond, and it was, you and I, it was like, whoa, Van Halen, and we both loved Van Halen, and I love Van Halen in a way, I call it not in a tumbleweed way. I believe there's a lot of people that I call hair metal tumbleweeds that are rolling around Hollywood where they're like, what happened, man? There's no good music anymore. I don't believe that. I think some of the best music is being made right now. But I love Van Halen, but I also love whatever's happening right now with, say, Rival Sons or stuff like that. So, you and I immediately hit it off. I get you the bootlegs. I had a shitload of bootlegs, and that's you and our background, and that's the beautiful thing of music. It reminds me of being in junior high, your first year. You're there. It's uncomfortable. You're going through puberty. It's weird. Your voice is changing, and you see a kid with a Van Halen or AC/DC shirt. And that is the goddamn bond right there. You go, there's a guy. There's a guy right there. Without him saying a word, I know we're gonna be friends. And that's how it all starts. Music is the best opener for a friendship.
It's a great way to kick off a what should be the start of a beautiful friendship, especially if you have that common bond with someone. When you first heard Van Halen, where were you? What were you doing? What was that experience like?
There was this girl, her name was Esther Mahalik, and she would have to drive me and her little brother to school. That was kind of the agreement for her to get a Toyota Celica. It was green, and it was just this, but it had an 8-track. And on the way to school, we would get lessons. A 10-minute drive, but we'd get these lessons in music. Ted Nugent, Cat Scratch Fever. But she would play Van Halen. And I remember hearing Ain't Talking About Love. And I was like, whoa, what is that? That intro. Dun, 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 and that was it. I was in. I mean, they had really got me out on the radio. And that was a cover. Cool. But man, Ain't Talking About Love. That was it, man. It took my life, and I've been in ever since. I saw I've seen him, I don't know, I counted last night, I think 18 times. One time with you, I believe, right? Or you went to the same show.
Yeah, I think you and I had a couple of those experiences where we didn't even know we might. I think we went to one show together, and
At
then
the at Staples.
yeah, and then there were five other ones where it's like, oh, you were there, I was there too. We should. Where were you? Where were you? And it was just that. Oh, you were one of the 20,000 people that was somewhere next to me.
Yeah, yeah. I like, you know what I like about you, Mark, is you can never say a bad word about Van Halen, which I love about you. It's so great. You'll be like, "What'd you think, man?" I'll be like, "Well."
Yeah, you would always. Dean. So Dean sends me a text, and this is like I think this is a month before I was going to do the House of Blues in Vegas earlier this year, which seems like 10 years ago. And Dean's like, "Oh, bro, Dave is just he's not even singing it anymore." So Dean sends me this YouTube video of Dave, and to be fair, to be honest, with Dean, it was not the best version of Dance the Night Away I've ever heard. And I was like, "Dude, I'm going to be in Vegas next month playing on that stage. You got to come and hang out." And then we were going our separate ways. But I mean, I think that I will agree with you as far as Dave losing a lot of his ability to actually sing on stage. But when I saw Van Halen it doesn't matter if it was back when we saw him at Staples or the last show they did at Hollywood Bowl, there was never a missed note with Eddie through all of it. I mean, he was just a flawless technician, and he still played with the heart and the feel that you get on the albums.
Well, I got so many Van Halen stories, and it's unreal. And I think one of the problems of being 54 and seeing him since the Women and Children tour, every run, you there's a thing inside you that when the innocence and the pre-cell phone and the pre-internet and everything, that thing of waiting in line all night in front of a record store, getting your ticket, driving with three buddies, barely able to drive, your first six-pack of Lowenbrow, and then the $12 ticket going in. You don't know who the fuck these guys are. You don't know what they ate that day. You don't know what they're going to wear. You don't know the set list. And then they come on, it goes dark. You hear Eddie do the fucking squealing horse. And then the goosebumps on your arms and your fucking face and neck. And they come out and they open with something like On Fire or Romeo's Delight. And you lose your goddamn mind, man. And you never forget that. So for a band to go that long, of course, you get these calluses on you, but I go and support no matter what. So that's my problem. I saw him on the Women and Children. I saw him on the fucking on Fair Warning. I saw him on Diver Down twice. I saw him on 84. I saw him on the first Dave back. The last day back, I went to a personal rehearsal at the LA Forum, all this kind of stuff. I saw him at the Selland Arena, super small, Fair Warning, everything, I was at the Oakland shows where they filmed those videos. It's nuts. So
You were at the show. You were at the Oakland show where we get that concert footage of Eddie with Unchained and then Dave jumping off the drum right. You were at that show.
I was at all three of those, all 3 nights. So I went to Women and Children. It was 2 nights. Listen to this. I told the story on my podcast. I put a tribute to Eddie out yesterday. Let there be talk if you guys want to hear it. I go the first night with a guy named Vince Casey, Women and Children tour, Oakland Coliseum, where the Warriors used to play. I'm going to the second night. My mom, I'm a freshman in high school. She goes, if you go again, you're out of the house. I went. I got home at like 2 a.m. She was up. She's yelling at me. I said, look, you don't understand, man. This is going to be my future. I need to see this. This is my college. And after a night of her being mad, she kind of understood. And after that, my mom became this amazing rock and roll mom, taking me to shows all over. So the following year they come. 3 nights at Oakland again, same place. And MTV shoots some of the songs. I go all 3 nights. I never not go all 3 or 2 nights, AC/DC, Van Halen, whatever, because it was like $12 and I was working construction. I had a shit job at a Foster Freeze, and all my money went towards concert tickets and records. So I went those 3 nights. Now there is rumors that they shot the whole show, but I dug deep into it and they didn't apparently. And I know they didn't because in this world of bootlegs, that shit would have been leaked by now. So that's definitely not happening. But I was at those shows, and years later, I opened for David Lee Roth 3 nights on a solo run when he had fucking Edgar Winter in his band, which was really weird. And I sat down with Dave. It was the first time I ever met him. I told him about going to see him on his birthday on the Women and Children tour, and they wheeled a giant cake out and a naked chick came out, and he's like, wow, man, I'm writing a book. I need to call you sometime and get some of these stories. This is amazing. He never called me, but we talked for a couple days, and it was pretty fucking cool, man. But I saw that. Then I saw the Diver Down. Then my mom, she goes, do you want to go to the prom or the US Festival? I laughed at her. She rented a Toyota Dolphin, which was a small little motorhome, took me, my buddy Tony, and Eric down to the desert, Glen Ellen, and we watched we went all 3 days of the US Festival. The first night, headliner Clash, second night, Van Halen, third night, Bowie. We spent a week in there, and I never fucking forgot it, you know?
Dude, this is why I miss you. This is why it's such a tragedy. What we're going through is because this is just for everybody watching right now. This is just the kind of shit that Dean and I and a bunch of our buddies, like he said, you'll have Mark Manor roll up and tell a story. Bill Burr's hanging out. Steve Simone is around. Renize is going to come by, and it's just all these people that celebrate the same kind of stuff we do. And so, Dean, before I let you go, I have a couple fan questions I want to get to because I know you got to go do a show. Eddie Van Halen said, "Don't bring up Fair Warning around Dean." Now, what is it with you and the Fair Warning album? Are you two at odds somehow?
Oh no, I think because I'm obsessed with it. I think that's why he probably said that. It's an obsession to me because I truly believe, and this is me being a true fan and seeing all the shows, I believe that was the peak of Van Halen as far as live and recording. Live, Dave had not gone full into the clown mode of not singing and I'm going to fuck your girlfriend tonight. Look at all the people here, which I get. That was his showmanship, and he had created this persona. But early Van Halen, especially Women and Children era, where he was really fucking badass, like a badass. There was no clown to it. I wanted to be that guy. When I saw him come out, man, and they opened with Romeo's Delight, you just go, what the fuck? And I've heard some people over the years go, yeah, Dave's just not that good a singer. And I beg to differ. That fucking guy could sing the shit out of this stuff right up until Fair Warning tour. You know, it was unreal. And then he got a little lazy with the crowd singing it, and you know, and there's a lot of shit going on, you know, mentally and stuff. But that I can't even describe what that tour was like with the backdrops, with the fucking Sunday afternoon in the park with the mini Moog, you know, Eddie up there, no, 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 no. The Eddie changes guitars into the one with the dots. You know, it's the first time you see him without stripes. He's got the dots. He's got the Rasta one that Dweezil Zappa owns now. And Eddie's dressed like Raggedy Andy for some fucking reason. And they are insane on that tour. I saw 3 nights in Oakland, and I went 2 nights later to Fresno, California, to the Selland Arena, because that's what I do. If a band played Oakland or San Francisco, it was huge, but they would always stop in Fresno, and that place held about 7,500. and you could get right up front row, man. I have multiple picks. I've got the gold VH necklace still new in the bag I bought on the Women and Children tour. Still got it.
Dude, it's so great to just and I want to let you know, if you ever want to just like call and just vent about the fact that we lost this guy, I'm always open to you and vice versa, I'm sure. But I want to turn everybody on to your podcast before we let you go here. Let There Be Talk is just this. It is such a celebration of all things music, really, because Dean's had such a diverse array of artists on there, and they get deep into their careers. They get deep into their love, their appreciation of their influences, and they just relax and shoot the shit too. I mean, Dean, you've gone from now you're having guests like Kirk Hammett on there, and you came from the low heights of having guests like Mark Ellis on your show. And now you're having some of the greatest musicians in the history of rock and roll on your show. What's it like to get to that level, just be able to call up some of the most famous musicians in the world and have them say, yeah, I want to come do your show?
9 years, 650 episodes, never missed a Monday, booked the show entirely myself, record it myself, engineer it myself, edit it myself. It's been nothing but fucking grind. And this year has been unreal. John Mayer, Paul Stanley, Kirk Hammett. And I'll tell you what, I can't say anything right now, but you're going to want to tune in Tuesday because the mic has been dropped.
Okay. Maybe I'm gonna keep my phone right near me. So if a text from old Dean Delray comes in, then I'll be ready to receive whatever news I'm about to get. But look, man, I know you're a busy dude. Last thing I want to tell you is, by the way, and if y'all haven't and never listened to our buddy Mark Maron does WTF, and Dean and Mark tour together. And maybe my favorite episode of WTF is when Maron is going to talk to Mick Jagger. He got Mick Jagger as a phone interview, and he had Dean. Dean is the best wingman because Dean is just going to be there to pump you up, tell you, man, you're going to go crush this set. Man, this band kick, you're going to have a great time. And so Maron had Dean ready to talk and just after he got off the phone with Mick Jagger. And it's just such a cool experience of friends just getting excited. It's like y'all are in 6th grade and you get to talk to some hot girl who's a senior in high school for 15 minutes. And it was just such a beautiful celebration of your love for the Rolling Stones.
Well, I look at life, and I talked about it on the podcast yesterday, in the exact way that Eddie Van Halen plays guitar, okay? And this is when people look at me all the time and they go, man, you're always happy and fucking fired up. And I'm like, it's easy to be angry and in the shits, but look at Eddie Van Halen. He was the only guitar player I ever saw that played the most violent guitar, but was constantly smiling because he knew, I'm living the dream, man. I'm living the fucking dream. And I like to remind people of that, of like, when I'm at the Comedy Store and they're like, man, I didn't get a fucking Netflix special. Fuck that guy. He's not funny. I'm like, you know what, dude? We are living the goddamn dream. And COVID is the perfect example. We don't get to do what we want to do right now. So specials don't matter. TV shows don't matter. The playing field is leveled and we're all fucking bummed, but you got to be happy. And if I don't get to do comedy for 2 years, I'm like, man, we got to do it though, man. We were doing it, you know?
We got to do it, and we got a lifetime of stories to kick around just between the two of us. And I want to tell you you're welcome, because when you came to the Comedy Store that magical night in 2009 to actually become a comic, the reason why you came in, the reason why the patio was playing rock music, I'm willing to bet it's because I talked the front bartender at the time, Samantha, into playing my iPod, because after my sets, I would give her my iPod and I would say, hey, let's rock out. I had a specific patio playlist for the Comedy Store. And so I left my iPod there more nights than not. And I'm willing to bet that's what drew you in. And Dean, I can't thank you enough for being in my life as a comic, as a friend, as a rocker, and for joining the show tonight, my man. It's tough that it takes a tragedy like this to get us to see each other's faces, but you look great, and I want you to go crush it tonight. You got an army of fans here wishing you well, and go do what you do on stage tonight, my man.
Well, I got to tell you, man, before I cut out of here, you're one of the great, great friends that I did not have before stand up. And I tell most people the greatest thing I got out of stand up was new friendships because I was 44. All my friends were married with kids, they were long gone. And I was just kind of almost going to be a tumbleweed, almost. But I pushed myself. I got a bunch of new friends. And that's the greatest fucking thing I got out of comedy. And I think about that time you and I were on stage in New York City at your sold out show. And I think, you know what, man? We fucking made it. We're in New York. People know our names. They're laughing. We're 3,000 miles away from the Comedy Store. We are doing it, man. And that's the God's honest truth, you know?
I appreciate you, my brother. And just for the kids at home, when you go on stage tonight, what number show is this going to be? Dean keeps track of every set he's ever done. What number are we at right now?
Well, I compare this to the steroids era of baseball, but it's the opposite. Instead of performance enhanced, it's instead of the asterisk, it's that COVID germ thing they have. And I'm coming up tonight right now is going to be number 80, which is like 500 in a normal year with COVID.
Yeah, we're doing stand up in the dead ball era, but you're keeping our sport alive. Go crush it tonight. Do it for Eddie, and let's get together sooner rather than later, my man.
Let's do it. Let's get some lunch at Lemonade, eat outdoors, and fucking just talk Eddie.
I am into that all day and all night. Dean Delray of Let There Be Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Go crush it, Dean.
Tune in Tuesday. Let there be talk, man. I'm telling you.
That is Dean Delray, ladies and gentlemen, and he's just that is exactly who Dean is. You get in his presence and you light up, especially if you're tired, because he's human caffeine. He doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs. He just shows up and he's just like, he's always awake and he's just alive and he wants to talk to you. And he just wants to, doesn't matter who he's talking to. He could be talking to Chris Rock and then you walk in, he's just like, oh, I got to tell you about this new bootleg I got from Nikki Sixx. And it's just like, dude, he's so much energy inside that guy that whatever crowd he's about to perform for is about to experience. So many memories come flooding back. And when we all look at Van Halen, we talk about the deep cuts, we talk about the concerts, the tours that we saw. And it also reminds us about us and where we were at the time. So a couple quick stories for y'all is that when I saw Van Halen for the very first time, I was so nervous because I didn't know if the show was going to go on that night. Is Dave and Eddie, can they do one more? And this was Staples Center. We're in the parking lot. We're in the parking lot for 3 hours and just drinking beers and blasting music. And we were one of the first cars in the parking lot at Staples Center. And we got hungry. We're like, oh, God, they're not opening the doors for another 2 hours. So Steve Renazizi just says, watch this. I'm going to talk to Domino's, and I'm going to convince them to deliver pizza to the parking lot. Sure enough, later, Domino's car pulls up 45 minutes later, and it's just just went like, here, we're the ones that ordered the pizza. And we got 4 pizzas. We crushed it, got a little more sober, enough to get into the show. And the rest was history. And when you talk about that Forum show that Dean saw Van Halen do their Friends and Family show. That was before they launched their comeback tour in 2006, 2007. And they did it at the LA Forum. There were only about 1,000 people that were there, and you had to know somebody to get in there. So Dean obviously had connections. Me and Steve Simone, we just were like, it's not fate. It's not meant to be. But a couple open micers, one of whom at the time they were doing open mics. Now he lives in Buffalo, I think. Jimmy Pidd is his name. Hey, man, where the weed at? Jimmy Pidd, him and a couple of his friends decided, fuck it, let's go down to the Forum and see if we can't sneak in. And they did. You know how they snuck in? They put on a waiter kind of shirt, or like one of those chef shirts. You know those like chef things that just kind of fold over like that? They somehow had those or found those somewhere. And they walk in the back and they just look like they're there to cater the event. And they got in and they ditch the garb and they just go up. And then Pidd sidles up to Zach Wilde is right next to him. And I think Pitt was wearing a Randy Rhoads shirt, and Zach Wild's like, that's the man right there. And then they came to the Comedy Store later on that night, and Steve and I were doing our sets. We got off stage, and Pitt, one of them brought, it might have been Dean actually, one of them brought me the set list, which I still have of that night of what the first tour was going to be. And I could not believe I was touching a set list that belonged to a Van Halen show that had happened in the town I lived in that night. And I was not there. And all I said that night, I don't get on my hands and knees and pray too much, but I just said, just let this tour go on long enough so it gets to LA and I can see that just at least once in my life. And I did. And you'll know the story of me going to all of those concerts, that magical 8-year run where I got to see Van Halen live so many different times. Here, San Diego, on the Hollywood Strip, literally on Hollywood Boulevard when they shut it down for the Jimmy Kimmel show, and at the Hollywood Bowl. And Christopher says, I believe that was the night that Zach Wild got drunk and tried to climb the stage and was escorted away from security. So going to wrap things up here pretty soon. I think Basic Chic Girl says it all. That's really all you need to say when we're talking about this particular subject. And it's nice to be with so many people here. And yeah, Haskell gave me a box set of a bunch of Metallica that is currently, Dean got to experience it. A number of my other friends did. And now it is residing safely in Seattle, where my brother, who is a monster Metallica fan, who was the James Hetfield role in a Metallica cover band for a time in Buffalo, got to, now it's resting at his place. So, and I think Darius Films Direct says it all. His smile was fucking awesome, dude. When Eddie played it, he was rad, because it just puts a smile on her face. So if you guys have any last minute questions for me, happy to answer them. Happy to talk Van Halen a little bit more. We got Brian Nussbaum checking in. What is my all-time favorite Van Halen song? My all-time favorite Van Halen song is Dance the Night Away. And that's why my Desert Island album, if I'm going to the desert for the Dharma Initiative and I only get to take one record with me, I'm taking Van Halen 2. It's not necessarily my favorite Van Halen album, but I cannot live without Dance the Night Away. So I need that. And then you also get somebody get me a doctor, bottoms up. If you want to party, get You Are No Good. You want to think about that ex that probably signed you up for the Dharma Initiative. You want to think Beautiful Girls. Maybe somebody's going to show up on this island one day. It's got it all, or at least you can shoot up a flare and light up the sky and see if somebody can come rescue you. But you're not going to need rescuing if you got Van Halen 2 to rock out to. Favorite Van Halen album is probably this one, the very first one. But that's tough, because if I'm going top 5 Van Halen albums in some order, it's going to be Van Halen 1. It's going to be 1984. It's going to be For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, 5150. And then it's a toss-up. Maybe Fair Warning sneaks in there. Maybe probably Van Halen 2 would sneak in there. But just so much great music, And it's just, this is a good one from Ryan Kramer. Saw them on the Gary Cherone tour. That's right, when Van Halen 3 came out. And that was a cool tour. From everyone that saw it live will report, because you got to see the most of both eras, the classic Van Halen eras, and then Gary Cherone, they did some of their new songs, but you also got to see a bunch of Sammy Hagar era material and a bunch of Dave, because Sammy was, when he was touring with Van Halen, they were making so many monster records and huge hits that they didn't have to go back into the Dave catalog too much. They do Panama and they do Jump to close towards the show out. And then maybe they'd throw in Ain't Talking About Love or Unchained or something like that, but they didn't go too deep back into that catalog. And I think Eddie still wanted to focus on what he was doing at the time. He was still put that bad blood behind, and then at some point you're going to revisit all that greatness. And that brings up a question that David Taylor had DM'd me on Patreon, and it was, if once everything settles down and we can do live shows again, if there was some sort of reunion to honor Eddie as a tribute to Eddie with a bunch of the original band getting back together, who would I want to be the guitarist to play some Van Halen songs? And my answer is, it's not going to be one guitarist, because there is no one guitarist that can do what Eddie did. There isn't an army of guitarists that can sound like Eddie, but there's a lot of great players out there that I would love to hear their take. David Taylor's top 5, if I'm remembered correct, was Steve Vai, who would be in mine, Satriani, who would be in mine, Nuno Betancourt from Extreme, which would be kind of cool, have him and Gary Sharon play together. Zach Wilde was one of them, and Slash, I think, was the other one that Dave said. And those are all great choices. I might throw like a Yngwie Malmsteen in there or the Joe Bonamassa, but I think you got a pretty good list there. Maybe Richie Sambora would be pretty fun. I know he's a big fan, but Kirk Hammett would be another one. And then I just keep going. It'd be nice to just have Foo Fighters. But that's the other thing about this time is that we don't have live music because whatever bands we're touring right now from any window into music would be honoring Eddie Van Halen. And they'd be playing Van Halen tunes. If Metallica was on tour right now, there's a clip you can watch on YouTube. Metallica, the last time they were playing in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, they played the opening of Running with the Devil, and the crowd goes crazy. Foo Fighters, when they brought Dave out. Pearl Jam. Every time Pearl Jam plays Connecticut to honor the UConn women's basketball team, they play Ain't Talking About Love. Mike McCready does Eruption, then it goes into Ain't Talking About Love. And you're damn right, I'm going to be watching that vid later on tonight too. Because they used to play Ain't Talking About Love was on an old ESPN2 commercial because ESPN2 used to broadcast women's college basketball games. UConn is a legendary women's basketball program, and Ain't Talking About Love is associated with that. And so I think that's how it came about. And then every time they go to Connecticut, Pearl Jam's like, well, we're here. Let's play some Van Halen. And it's great. John Mayer would work out as well. And ladies and gentlemen, Ken Knapsack is here, closing everything out. Just an Extreme reference, so he was pulled into the chat. That is correct, Ken. And you being here means more than words to me. How about that? Great slow dance song when you're in 6th grade. When More Than Words comes on, oh boy! If you're near the girl you liked, you get the slow dance. It's a good one. It's a really good one. Oh yeah, Ken is doing the show tomorrow night. So Ken, good luck with your show tomorrow night. I hope it goes swimmingly. Ken's talking about Star Wars, which apparently is a space fantasy movie series that we should all check out. So we all need some therapy. Somebody get me a doctor indeed. Well, I am going to wrap things up here. And just thank everybody for hanging out with me because we can't do it in person. I'd love nothing more than to be on a stage right now telling jokes and then doing a Q&A and just hanging out with y'all afterwards. Going to the Smith restaurant if we were in New York City, Eddie, or somewhere out here just hanging out in the Comedy Store patio, shooting the shit with people like Dean Delray, talking about the mighty Van Halen. And I still feel what I said on Tuesday in the Moment that, as sad of a time as this is, it's also a time for us to be able to look back and say, man, how lucky we are to get the music of Eddie Van Halen and to be able to have a band like that brings us all together, because there's rock and roll and music. It's littered with greatness at every corner you turn to, but there's greatness in music. And then there's another special something that you can't quantify. You can't put it into a fine powder or else we'd all be snorting it, because it's something that takes ability and musicianship and it elevates it to this magical level where you can't even touch or taste it or quantify it, but it's there. And that to me has always been the wizardry that is Van Halen music, is it's just something special. You can listen to Def Leppard or Motley Crue or Aerosmith or Led Zeppelin or any of these great all-time rock bands, and they sound awesome. They kick ass, and occasionally they get to that level. But when I play a Van Halen tune, something else happens. Something deep inside just makes me feel joyous. It's an exuberant, boisterous happiness that no other band can replicate. And so we talk about how Van Halen, maybe they blew it in the last 20, 30 years because they couldn't just put their grievances aside and just get together and just make a bunch more records. They couldn't just do that magical tour with Sam and Dave and everybody together and all this stuff. And they had so much more they could have given the world, which is a fair assessment of the legacy of Van Halen. But when you're living your life and in the moment, it feels like it's just all this stuff happening to you, and it's tragedy, and why is this going down, and this, and why is this so hard, and oh, I got a lucky break there, and all these things just feel like these random occurrences. And then you look back on what you've built, and you say, well, no, that wasn't a bunch of random occurrences. That actually, all that happened for a reason. All those little tiny details made this beautiful portrait that is my life. That, yes, it is filled with some sadness and some tragedy and some disagreements and some regret, some heartache, but it also has beauty and happiness and fun and all of these memories, and it becomes this perfect portrait of what your life was. And the old saying with stand-up comedy is you leave the crowd wanting more. And maybe that is the magic of Van Halen, is that however many albums they put out, however many great tours they had or songs they had, you could listen to on the radio, it was never going to be enough for us because everybody wants some. I want some too. How about you? I know the answer. We all wanted more Van Halen, but the Van Halen we got, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight and celebrating the mighty Van Halen with me. This may be the last volume tribute that we do this week, but it's not the last time I'm going to be talking about this band, and it's not the last time I want to hear from y'all celebrating the legacy of Eddie Van Halen. So from all of us here, this great community of fans that I'm so thrilled showed up to watch some yokel that Eddie probably doesn't know from Adam, but he's someone who would not be the person that he is today without Eddie's music. So from all of us to wherever Eddie is, happy trails until we meet again. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Everybody saying hi and giving those guitar emojis. And it just feels like we just saw Van Halen live, right? Not because I'm great or even because Dean is all that awesome. It's just because we're happy and we're smiling. We got a beer open and we're about to go rock out to some of the greatest music there ever was. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Long live rock. And wherever you are in the world, just know that right here, right now, Mark is a fan of you as well.